An old proverb says, "In a storm, the oak breaks, and the reed bends and rises again." It's a beautiful image, but it's only half the truth, because there's a third kind. Not the oak that cracks and falls, not the reed that survives but stays a reed. Something that becomes stronger from the very thing that was breaking it. One man, I won't name him, the story isn't a rare one, lost everything in a single year. The business he'd poured 12 years into, his marriage, and his father, who died of a heart attack the day he found out about the divorce. In 9 months, 3 of the 4 supports his life stood on had collapsed. At 41, he was left in a rented room, in debt, and with the realization that he had no idea who he was without all the things that had been taken from him. Most people in that situation do one of 2 things. Either they break into alcohol, into depression, into a burnout they don't come back from, or they stubbornly rebuild the old life. They start a similar business, marry a similar woman, copy what used to be. This man did neither. 3 years later, he had a different business, one that earned 4 times what the old one had. A different family, in which, for the first time in his life, he felt at home. And, most important of all, he had become a different person. Not a better version of his old self, a different one. And when people later asked him how he'd recovered, he'd say a strange thing. "I didn't recover, and I wouldn't want to." And he'd add, "Before I was broken, I was fragile. I just didn't know it, because nothing had ever really hit me." That's what we're going to talk about today. The third kind of person. What they have that the others don't, and how it can be learned. Not in a crisis, but now. The idea I want to tell you about was introduced by a man named Nassim Taleb, a finance guy, a philosopher, a former trader who lived through several major market crashes. He called the idea antifragility. Here's the idea. Everything that exists has 3 possible modes under pressure. The first, fragile, glass. A business that depended on a single client. A person whose entire sense of worth stood on one role. The father, the successful one, the needed one. Under a blow, it shatters. The second, resilient. A brick wall, a cast iron pot. A person who endures and doesn't break, but doesn't grow either. After the blow, he stays exactly who he was. The third, antifragile. And this is the one we don't really have a natural word for, which is exactly why we miss it. It's the thing that gets stronger from the blow. A muscle torn by training grows back stronger. The immune system of a child who meets a world of dirt ends up tougher than the one who was kept sterile. A person who lived through a betrayal, who saw in himself what he'd been hiding, and came out deeper. And here's what to understand. We all want to be resilient. But what we should be aiming for is to be anti-fragile. They're different strategies. The resilient one endures. The anti-fragile one uses the blow as material for growth. But there's a dangerous turn here. This idea is very easy to turn into a nice motivational line. You know, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. No, that isn't true. Sometimes what doesn't kill you just maims you. Sometimes, after a blow, a person doesn't get wiser. He gets angrier. Not deeper, more closed off. Not stronger, just more careful, colder, more distrustful. So it's important to say honestly, not every kind of pain makes a person stronger. It isn't the pain itself that makes you stronger. What makes you stronger is how you move through it, and what was built inside you before the blow ever landed. I often hear, "Okay, anti-fragility, sounds good." But a crisis breaks people. It doesn't temper them. Half the people who get hit don't grow. They fall apart. That's true. And here is the most important thought in this whole conversation. The blow by itself doesn't make a person stronger. What does is what's inside the person before the blow. Take 2 people who go through the same layoff, the same age, similar experience, similar abilities. The first one is in shock the first 2 weeks too. He's scared. He's angry. He doesn't know what comes next. But then he starts to move. He calls people he knows, updates his skills, takes a temporary job, learns the thing he'd been putting off for ages. A year later, he's not just in a new position, he's already a different man. Not because the layoff was pleasant, because he managed to use the blow as material. The second one gets stuck. Every conversation comes back to his old boss. Every piece of market news becomes proof that everything's against him. He isn't looking for a way forward. He's looking for confirmation that he was wronged. And a year later, the blow is still happening to him, every single day. What's different? Not the layoff. What's different is what each man was standing on before the blow. One had other supports. The other had his whole life resting on one. So I'll say something a lot of people won't like. Antifragility isn't built in a crisis. A crisis only tests it. You have to build it when everything's going well. And this is exactly where most people lose. When things are good, they relax. They think well-being is a permanent state. But well-being is just a pause between trials. And every one of those pauses is either time to prepare or time thrown away. If you recognized yourself or someone near you, leave a like. It helps the channel. Now, the specifics. What does building antifragility mean in practice? I'll break it down into a few directions. Not as motivation, as real work. First, don't put everything in one basket, especially the one you consider the safest. The most dangerous basket isn't the shaky one. It's the one that looks secure. The shaky one, a person watches with worry and hedges against. The secure one, he relaxes around. And when it suddenly drops, he's left with nothing. A stable job, a strong marriage, a healthy body, a solid savings account. Each of these is good. Each of them can, one day, stop being what it was. And the question isn't whether to stop leaning on them. The question is, what do you have besides them? Do you have skills beyond your current profession? Relationships beyond one family? Meaning beyond the role you're playing right now? Inner supports beyond the external ones? If the answer is no, then your life is standing on one leg. As long as that leg holds, everything's fine. The day it cracks, you'll find there's nothing underneath you. Second, let in small pain regularly, so the big pain doesn't break you. It sounds paradoxical, but it works on every level. A body that's never put under load loses its strength. A heart that never leaves its comfort zone grows weak. A psyche that's never touched never learns how to meet a blow. So anti-fragile people do strange things. They voluntarily walk into discomfort. They take on what they don't know how to do. They start conversations they're afraid of. They ask for feedback that might sting. They walk into physical cold, into physical exhaustion, into awkwardness. Not out of masochism, because they understand small, controlled doses of discomfort are a vaccine against the big, uncontrolled kind. If you've never been turned down, the first serious rejection can level you. If you get turned down regularly, the 10th one just doesn't land. Third, stop expecting life to always pay you what you deserve. This may be the hardest one, because inside every one of us lives a very understandable wish. If I try, let it be noticed. If I love, let me not be betrayed. If I'm honest, let me be treated honestly in return. It's a normal wish. But life doesn't always answer by that logic. Not because the world is necessarily cruel, because the world is more complicated than our idea of fairness. Other people's choices move through it. Other people's weakness, other people's selfishness, circumstances, illnesses, crises, mistakes, sheer chance. And growing up doesn't begin where a person says, "I don't care." It begins where he says, "Yes, that was unfair." But my question now isn't only why it happened. My question is, what am I going to do next? Fourth, tell the difference between a setback and a catastrophe. Most people react to a setback as if everything's been destroyed. Didn't get the promotion? I'm not valued. Had a fight with someone close? That's it. The relationship's over. Made a mistake on a project? My career's in danger. But in 90% of cases, it isn't a catastrophe. It hurts. It's unpleasant. It calls for a response. But it isn't the end. The anti-fragile person knows how to stop and ask, is this actually destroying my life? Or is it just a blow I need to process the right way? Because a lot of ends of the world only become the end of the world because we finish building them in our own heads. Fifth, have a meaning in your life that doesn't depend on circumstances. This may be the most important one. I left it for last. Anti-fragile people aren't different because they have less pain. They often have more. They're different because they have something they're willing to carry that pain for. When a person has a deep why, he can endure almost any how. When he has no why, even a small how starts to break him. So let me ask you one question. If tomorrow your work, your status, your familiar comfort, the people right around you, were all taken away, what would be left? Would anything be left that you actually live for? If the answer is, I don't know, then you're in the fragile zone right now. And no amount of stability will save you if there's nothing in the foundation that can withstand any change in circumstances. And now, the deepest part. The thing without which this whole conversation would be psychology with no foundation under it. I don't believe in an anti-fragility built on human willpower alone. I've seen a lot of people try. Strong, disciplined, well-read people. And they broke. Some at 50, some at 60, some earlier. Because human will has a limit. Discipline has a limit. Psychological techniques have a limit. And at some point, a blow comes that no inner strength can hold. And here's what I've noticed. Watching people who went through something enormous and didn't harden, they deepened. They almost always had one thing in common. At some point, they stopped being the final authority in their own lives. They had something, or someone, larger than themselves, to whom they entrusted what they couldn't carry. It isn't a magic shield. They went through the same things as everyone else, sometimes worse, but they didn't carry it alone. They had a support that didn't depend on external circumstances at all. The outside world could be collapsing, and the foundation held. And that, perhaps, is the most mature form of anti-fragility. Not the one where I'll withstand anything, the one where I do my part, and what's bigger than me, I hand to the one who can carry it. I'm not urging anyone to believe in anything. I'm just naming what I've seen. People with that foundation break less often. And when they do break, they get up differently, with depth, not with bitterness. Let's come back to the man I started with, the one who, in a single year, lost his business, his marriage, and his father. He didn't recover, and he didn't want to recover. He rebuilt, from the ground up, differently. Because when every support he'd set his life on got knocked out from under him, he asked himself, for the first time, what a life should actually stand on so that it can't be knocked down. And the answer he came to wasn't quick, wasn't easy, wasn't dramatic. He understood that before the catastrophe, he'd built his life on things he could lose. The business, the marriage, recognition, his father's health, all of it external. All of it leaves, sooner or later, for every person, without exception. And there are things the outside world can't take. The ability to be honest. The ability to love, even when it isn't returned. The ability to get up in the morning when you don't want to. The ability to keep your word. The ability to actually see other people. No one can take these things. They're either built or they're not. And when he rebuilt his life on that foundation, it turned out the business, the relationships, all the rest came on their own. But no longer as the supports, as the consequence. They can be lost again, and it'll hurt. But it won't destroy him anymore, because the main thing is standing on something else. To pull it together, briefly, There aren't two kinds of response to a blow, but three. The fragile breaks. The resilient endures. The anti-fragile grows. Not every kind of pain makes you stronger. Sometimes it just maims. What makes you stronger isn't the pain. It's how you move through it, and what was built inside you before the blow. Antifragility is built when things are good. A crisis only tests it. Don't put your life in one basket, no matter how secure it looks. Small, voluntary doses of discomfort vaccinate you against the big blows. Stop expecting life to always pay you what you deserve. Growing up begins where you ask, not why is this happening to me, but what am I going to do next? Tell the difference between a setback and a catastrophe. Most ends of the world we finish building ourselves have a meaning that doesn't depend on circumstances. Without it, even small things start to break you. And if you want the deepest form of antifragility, stop being the final authority in your own life. Do your part. The rest, hand to the one who can carry it. And one last thing, to stay in your head. In a storm, the oak breaks. The reed bends. But there's a third, the one who stands, and every gust of wind drives his roots deeper. It works out that way, but only if those roots have already grown in you before the storm. The storm only reveals what's in your foundation. No more, no less. So the only honest question today isn't, how will I hold on when it comes? It's, what am I doing right now on a calm day so the roots have time to grow? If this conversation got to you, leave a like. In the comments, write the one basket you may have put too much into. Work, relationships, money, status, health, other people's approval. And next to it, write 1 second support you can start building right now. Not in theory, concretely. Subscribe if conversations like this are close to you. No noise, no cheap motivation, but an honest look at life. And send this video to someone who, it seems to you, is standing on one leg right now and doesn't even notice it. Take care, and I'll see you next time.